So this lesson, we're looking at Romeo and Juliet, Acts 3, 4 and 5. So that's our lesson title. Let's get down date, title and learning objective, please. So this is the story of Act 3 that we're looking at now. We're going to have a read through of it and then you've got some questions to answer on the next slide. Benvolio and Mercutio are in the street. Tybalt arrives looking for Romeo. The day is hot, trouble is in the air. Mercutio is in a quarrelsome mood. He provokes Tybalt. Romeo arrives. Tybalt insults Romeo, hoping to draw Romeo into a fight. Romeo has now married Juliet and does not want to quarrel with Juliet's cousin. Romeo tries to calm the situation down. Mercutio does not know about Romeo's marriage. He can't understand why Romeo is giving in to Tybalt. Mercutio and Tybalt fight. Tybalt kills Mercutio. Romeo loses his head and fights with Tybalt. Romeo kills Tybalt. Romeo leaves. The prince arrives. Benvolio explains what has happened. The prince banishes Romeo from Verona. The nurse has made arrangements for Romeo to climb into Juliet's bedroom. She tells Juliet that Romeo has killed Tybalt and has been banished. She agrees to find Romeo and bring him to Juliet. Romeo is hiding in Friar Lawrence's cell. Friar Lawrence calms Romeo down. He convinces Romeo that in time things can be sorted out. Romeo plans to spend the night with Juliet before leaving Verona secretly and going to Mantua. Paris has asked Juliet's father if he can marry her. Capulet agrees and says that he will tell Juliet that she will marry Paris on the Thursday of that week. Romeo, meanwhile, is with Juliet in her bedroom. As dawn breaks, Romeo leaves by the balcony. Lady Capulet arrives at Juliet's bedroom to tell her about the marriage with Paris that has been arranged. Juliet, already married, refuses. Her father arrives and speaks very cruelly to her. He tells her that she will either marry Paris or he will disown her and put her out of his house. Juliet decides to go to see Friar Lawrence to see if he can advise her. So, once you've read that through, let's have a go at the questions on the next slide. So we've got 10 questions here. Give yourself about 10 minutes. Remember, full sentences, please, for our questions, for your answers. And then you can go through the answers on the next slide. So our answers then. What happens at the beginning of Act 3 before Romeo arrives? Well, Tybalt arrives wanting a fight. Question 2, why does Tybalt insult Romeo? Because he wants to wind him up so that he will fight. Question 3, explain why Romeo refused to fight with Tybalt. Well, that was because they're now related. Romeo has just married Juliet and Juliet is Tybalt's cousin. Question 4, explain what Mercutio does when Romeo refuses to fight. Well, he fights with Tybalt instead and Tybalt ends up killing Mercutio. What does Romeo do after Mercutio dies? Well, he kills Tybalt. Not great now that he's just married Juliet, Tybalt's cousin. Question 6, how does the prince punish Romeo? He banishes him. That means he sends him away from Verona where he lives. He's got to go and live in a different part of the country. Question 7, where does Romeo hide? That's in Friar Lawrence's cell. It's not like a prison cell, more a cellar or a basement type of room. Question 8, where does Romeo go when he leaves Juliet after their wedding night? Well, he goes to a place called Mantua. That's where he's been banished to. Question 9, who does Juliet's father arrange for her to marry? That's Paris. And question 10, what does Juliet do when her father insists she will have to marry Paris? She goes to see Friar Lawrence to see if he can advise her. Story of Act 4. All we need to do here is copy out the story and fill in the answers with the words in bold at the top of the passage. So give yourself about 10 minutes to do that. And then the answers are on the next slide. We'll have a read through. So Paris goes to see Friar Lawrence to arrange his marriage with Juliet. Friar Lawrence knows that Juliet is already married. Juliet arrives and speaks politely with Paris. Paris leaves. Friar Lawrence thinks up a desperate plan to save the situation. He gives Juliet a drug which will make her seem to be dead for 42 hours. He tells her to take the drug the night before she is supposed to marry Paris. He tells Juliet that she will then be taken to the Capulet tomb. He will write a letter, he says, to Romeo, telling Romeo what has happened. He will arrange for Romeo to be in the tomb when Juliet awakes. Juliet agrees to the plan. Juliet returns home and tells her father that she is sorry for being disobedient. She says she will marry Paris. Her father is so pleased that he brings the day for the marriage forward a day. Juliet takes the drug. Early the next morning, the nurse arrives to wake Juliet. She thinks Juliet is dead. She calls Juliet's parents. Paris arrives, Friar Lawrence arrives, and preparations are made for Juliet's funeral. So the final one then, the story of Act 5. So let's have a quick read through of this before you have a go at the questions. Romeo's servant Balthazar knows nothing of the plans Friar Lawrence has made. He arrives in Mantua to tell Romeo that Juliet has died. Romeo now feels that he has nothing to live for. He seeks out an old seller of drugs, an apothecary, and persuades him to sell him a powerful poison. He is determined to kill himself by Juliet's side. Friar Lawrence has written to Romeo, but his letter has not been delivered. He sent it with another friar, Friar John, who was prevented from leaving Verona to go to Mantua because of the plague. Friar Lawrence knows that Juliet will soon wake and leaves to go to her tomb. Paris arrives in the churchyard. He's grieving for Juliet and intends to spread flowers at her tomb. Romeo arrives with a crowbar to break into Juliet's tomb. Paris thinks Romeo has come to do harm to the bodies of Tybalt and Juliet. Romeo tries to make peace with Paris but fails. They fight. Romeo kills Paris. Romeo breaks into the tomb. He drinks the poison and dies by Juliet's side. Friar Lawrence arrives. Juliet wakes. Friar Lawrence tries to get Juliet to leave with him. Juliet refuses. Friar Lawrence is frightened and runs away. Juliet sees Romeo's dead body. She takes Romeo's dagger and kills herself. The alarm has been raised. The parents of Romeo and Juliet arrive. The prince arrives. Friar Lawrence is brought in. He explains to the prince what has happened. The parents realise that their feud has caused the tragedy. Montague says that he will raise a gold statue in memory of Juliet. Capulet says that he will raise a statue in Romeo's memory. The feud between the families is over. Okay, so once again, we've got 10 questions to answer based on what we've just read of the story of Act 5. So again, give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to have a go at answering these in full sentences, and then you can move on and mark your answers, which are on the next slide. So question 1, how does Romeo find out that Juliet is dead? Well, Balthazar tells him. That's one of Romeo's servants and friends. Question 2, which word in the passage above means a man who sells medicines, drugs and potions? That's an apothecary. Question 3, why does Romeo seek out the seller of drugs? What does he intend to do? He goes to him to buy poison so that he can kill himself. Question 4, Friar Lawrence wrote to Romeo. With whom did Friar Lawrence send his letter? That was Friar John. Question 5, why did his letter fail to reach Romeo in Mantua? That was because of the plague, so Friar John couldn't leave Verona. Question 6, why does Paris visit the churchyard? That's to spread flowers on Juliet's tomb. Question 7, explain what happens when Paris and Romeo meet in the churchyard. They fight and Romeo kills Paris. Question 8. What does Romeo do after he's killed Paris? Well, he drinks the poison and kills himself. Question 9. Describe the scene in the tomb after Friar Lawrence has run away. Juliet sees Romeo's dead body and then kills herself. And question 10. Explain how the parents of Romeo and Juliet react when they find out what's happened. Well, they realise that their feuding has caused it all. They each raise a statue in memory of Romeo and Juliet, and the feud is over. Okay? And that's the end of this lesson. Thank you.